Welcome everyone to more live Linux distribution work here behind the scenes and more transparent and open than any other Linux distribution here. Our T2, just raw Linux for those who are new to this channel. I'm just finishing here all the ISO builds, 15 or 16 or so of basically all the CPU architectures and now even more. And this release, the last release, was already amazing, one of our best T2 releases ever, but with even more attention to detail. Just testing this is a very first test, just freshly installed here. And yeah, Ryzen 1550X, I tuned the curve optimization even further negative down for even faster builds here, also with concurrent TLB flushing, a feature that will only maybe come to the next major kernel or something. So performance, more performance, and we're shipping this, right? Linux kernel 5.12 with concurrent TLB flushing for 2.5% previous video, more performance. And you might ask, what is more better? What is even better? Yeah, more better. Among other things, always attention to detail, right? Already hundreds of videos here live on this channel, working on open source and stuff. One thing is the shutdown. Left here is some stuff failing previously. Yeah, so fast. Probably I should kind of sort of boot with no graphic. That is fixed, and you have seen that was so fast. All right, done. I need to console equals tt tys0 and init equals bin bash to change the init tab. So what is even faster? The fix that was actually an upstream regression as per usual for this shutdown. This is basically kill all 5 for system 5 init kill all, and they changed the return value, which resulted in that printing as a failure. Or remount rw and init tab of also yeah, our Vim approved default. Hopefully you like this. Also I slightly wonder, how does it paste? This was not what I wanted to paste, but that is just this video's URL in case you're wondering. Surprisingly, I commented on that, right? This is exec has been init, probably should work, and just for the serial console to work. And among other things, this also works. So we fixed this issue to actually print. I changed the serial console, not to a tiny little polishing, but much more important is that this shutdown stuff does no longer fail. Now, this is partially hidden by our thumbnail there. But yeah, this previously this failed for the last years, mostly cosmetic. And again, this is kill all 5, now having a return value of 2 for no processes were killed. And so this was only like printing a fake error because, yeah, reinventing upstream error codes. And the cool thing is, of course, we don't do half things here. We only do like perfecting stuff. And my fix for that is, maybe other distributions also do this, maybe potentially, but basically the full change for that makes our shutdown 15 seconds faster, because previously this was always sleeping 5 seconds. And to be honest, probably for 18 years, like when I saw this the first time 18 years or so, I was like, nah, do we really need this? But nah, YOLO, whatever. The gurus and experts probably know what they are doing. So coming full circle here, this is probably either in this 5 init system, I guess. And the fix for that is checking the return value, so that is new. And previously we were always sleeping 5 seconds here, and I changed that to only sleep if there wasn't something killed. So the thinking is probably if something was killed, it needs potentially some grace time to shut down cleanly or so, something of that sort. And I think, how was this previously? Yeah, so probably saving up to 15 seconds, I guess, because previously this was 3 times sleep 5 or so. Also here is kill all. Yeah. I made the first one 3, so basically a little bit faster processors, can kill faster. And this 5, but this should not run because only the first thing should kill some processes. And previously this is the second and third one failed here because exit return code 2. Maybe someone made this change exactly for that, maybe at Debian or somewhere. Not sure what others, or except systemd, but we certainly not system defense. Other things, of course, previous video, and yeah, we are still building all of that now with more negative curve optimizations for even faster precision boost over driving here. And of course, latest version of a lot of stuff, including Firefox just yesterday, latest Firefox minor version, including security. Of course, Linux kernel, the latest version is here now somewhere, all the many builds 5.12.4, just today's security patches, including probably the first distribution shipping with concurrent TLB flushing, 2.5% faster performance, on top of up to 15 seconds faster shutdown time. And if that would not be all, previous video I spared no efforts, also live here on this channel, spared no efforts, also cables, spared no efforts, PowerPC, PlayStation, spent a couple of hours forward porting, fixing regressions, so latest not at the last non-upstream regression 5.8, but now PowerPC 64. This makes all flavors, also IBM Big Fat Little Indian Power 9 and stuff, because it was using the same PowerPC 64 kernel due to the T2 overlaying mechanisms. So PowerPC 64, all of the flavors, not only P3 alike and Apple G5, but latest and greatest PPC 64 LE, plus, yeah, latest kernel there, plus all the fixes, so P3 is in an amazing shape, plus that is still not all. I thought as shipping the most optimized, amazing ISOs, tuning the performance out of here. I thought also giving you more performance. That means our build all stuff, previously we optimized smart, now we optimize smarter. So only means smart is a T2, aka previously Rock Linux technology, invented by Claire and of Rock Linux founding fame. Recently improved and fixed and stuff. And what that means is compile everything for source, because everything is usually not run. Hot paths in code, very few. And so that means compile everything for size, because it's not run anyway and sitting in caches and pages and stuff. And only optimizing hot code paths with O2. And I think some time ago, maybe a year ago, I added smarter for optimizing the hot paths with O3. So starting now, all the ISOs smarter optimized for hot code paths with O3 for hopefully a little bit extra performance for you playing along at home from SG Octane to P3 and latest and greatest x86. Ironically, this uncovered, last but not least, another side anecdote here. I wasted an hour or two last evening and this morning because I built all the stuff and then I had Spark 64 failing, specifically GCC, with internal compiler error in some code there. I could reproduce it. I didn't save it. Maybe I should have saved it, but I actually thought it's, yeah, full circle. I said this before, overclocking not usually worth it. And I thought I just more negative curve optimized this boosting of this Ryzen. And of course, naturally, I had this before. Building a Linux distribution, the best performance, building Linux distribution is the best stability test, system stability test. Nothing usually stresses something as much as massively, not even massively, embarrassingly massive parallel compilation of 15 systems with a load average of 222 or so. And naturally I thought, nah, it's my latest curve optimization. So I was at home at midnight, Spark 64 was GCC icing, it's like, nah, shit, lockdown, theoretically not really the most allowed to go out and stuff. Continued this morning, and because rebooting, going into the BIOS, previous settings, but still GCC Spark 64 icing. And I totally dialed this back, totally saved values, of course, an hour or two easily wasted with rebooting BIOS, and yeah, lesson learned. Overclocking, wasting time. Turns out that was not even the issue. This was actually a genuine, so recurring theme here. We find all issues and bugs and regressions. Turns out I was already like, why the freaking heck did this build last week and not anymore? And it's like, this is just transitioning here to smarter of O3. Turns out, yeah, GCC, if you compile the hot code passes of GCC with O3 for Spark 64, then oops, that internal compiler errors, because that is so 2021. Full circle 20 years I started with internal compiler errors with GCC 2 95.2 and unreleased 3 or what that was, and Red Hat's infamous GCC 2 96, and then the totally mostly broken GCC 3 transition and glibc and so on. It's like, yeah, 2021, full circle. GCC is still icing on some platforms like Spark 64 if you optimize too much, because yeah. So yeah, that was really that. So much to that. I'm still, doesn't happen for all the other architectures, but happens for Spark. So we have here some quirks. So for example, we of course have here like PowerP3 for PowerPC 64 with 32-bit user space. So a little bit of also optimized G5 but tuned for cell, because you playing along at home, why not? We can do it. And Spark 64, one of the more broken ones, not only does some stuff, so G++ also segmentation faults, and as a consequence of that, internal compiler error, because now do segmentation faults. So Spark 64 remains, it was full cycle also there 20 years ago when I've got my first Ultra Spark, Ultra 5, 270 megahertz, even paid all my student loan money there. It was 20 years ago, in 2003, it was the most fragile architecture, usually the most broken and stuff. And yeah, 2021 still is. Sure, there is not much upstream stuff, and even I personally not investing the most time into fixing and improving GCC for Spark 64, but not only LTO's freaking broken, it's the Linux, well, we don't LTO the Linux kernel, but all the user space LTO works except GCC, specifically mostly D++, internal compiler error, segmentation faulting. But yeah, O3 even more broken, even it already internal compiler errors when GCC compiles itself. So yeah, Spark 64, not smarter, only smart optimized, because due to that. Otherwise, yeah, of course, previous videos on Okona tunes and Zenver 3. Most of the stuff, not the most spectacular. Some stuff of Mipsel obviously needs Indian is little, and otherwise not that much to see, except here PowerPC 64 32-bit user space config. This is why the configs change a little bit. But yeah, that was again. And now I really stopped touching this. I hope curve optimization. Maybe I make a dedicated video there on the main channel sometime soon. 5950X. Also, yeah, fun fact for those who are already longer members of this channel: the AMD RM8 replacement 5950X performance boost a little bit better, and per core negative performance boost curve optimizing actually works, because some of these cores don't negative performance boost curve optimize as much as some others. So yeah, if you build like a whole day 24/7, then it's like some extra performance. But now I really stop, and because can't lose any more hours with that. Now I for now call this hopefully rock solid. Knock on wood. I hope it is also with the summer heat. Well, let's see if we have here 32 centigrade Celsius here in the summer or stuff, if it's then also still the same stable. Otherwise, smarter optimized, up to 15 seconds faster shutdown, PS3 to the latest and greatest. Of course, we still have the PS3 RSX to do another day, which is why it would be amazing, you know, membership, Patreon, and GitHub sponsor and stuff like that, because yeah, it takes some time. Also need to send the stuff upstream, right? Some of the regressions are broken upstream. So if you just take Linux kernel or PowerPC kernel and build this for the PS3, it will of course not work, because yeah, ever-changing upstream APIs and ABIs and stuff. So that takes another hour or two just distilling, and also need to DMA mask of previous video of proofreading and code reviewing. There's some stuff before I send it upstream. But yeah, all in all, super amazing stuff. And now we really move on with microkernel and stuff. Of course, we have still extremely much to do, because my to-do has really many lines, like 139-ish plus some white spaces. But I will not, of course, all of your super chat and membership and Patreon stuff motivates me in all the small things here, but in the grand scheme of things, that is a totally amazing release. Most optimized PowerPC3, SGOctane. Yeah, the only thing is SGOctane is overlaid to 4.12, I think. Very theoretically, we could try to merge, but that is a weak project right now. I don't have a 40-hour week of forward porting SGOctane patches to 5.12. Good luck with that. Yeah, microkernel is the thing, because security and stability and stuff. Otherwise, the latest version of Firefox, a lot of small changes, updates, of course, data, user contributions, previous video, amazing patches there. A lot of updates, including minor ones, Data and myself. All of this stuff is upstream, PS3, as I said, lots of new packages, also from external people, which is of course amazing. As I said, shutdown errors gone, that were always annoying the last years to see. Of course, wasn't a big thing, but cosmetically, yeah, the latest Python version. strace, RISC-V, yeah, the only other thing would be to build even more architectures, which we previous video also did for the fun of it, but they don't fully build, especially not error-free. We will, however, release probably S390X just for the trolling of it. And otherwise, I would, in the long term, try to resurrect those here, but they require quite some hours, if not weekend of time of getting old GCC versions, and here making sure it could theoretically work in QEMU with SparkStation 10 or so. Not super mission critical, maybe someday. And then also, yeah, Super H also partially builds, but otherwise some usual variant just to test build some not glibc stuff, but this is all not the highest priority. And yeah, so we're building LVM, so this is the next build, so RISC-V, continuing that. And otherwise, probably good for fully automated builds and every quarter spitting out a new release. I only hope that the upstream people don't break it as often, because it's obviously rather annoying to spend nights and weekends of hunting regressions and fixing stuff again and again. So yeah, welcome everyone. Let's see, GitHub, new hack, all example commands, patent what, cd something mkd or cd something ldd, something, I don't know, something. And what else did I wanted to say? Was there something? Maybe, as usual, yeah, so we have now GitHub. If you want to report things like issues, feature requests and pull requests, I will probably set up a Git mirror someday, sometime soon, But if you want to open issues like missing architecture optimization, something doesn't build, that is a thing now, along with possibility to sponsor stuff. If you wanted to, we have already a sponsor, which is super amazing. And then this is, of course, I will not neglect D2, which I partially did the last decade. Need to keep the stuff maintained because it's the only usable Linux distribution for myself and some trusted viewers and PS3 and stuff and SGOctane. And otherwise, right, remember what I wanted to say. I wanted to say the next big thing, of course, we will always have some stuff to do, including the 130 lines of to-do here. But the other major thing I will continue working on the next weeks or month is supporting Homebrew, like on other systems with D2, previous video, ARM, Mac, and other systems, specifically for Mac OS, to use D2 to build Homebrew stuff. That, of course, win-win of having the same packages and widening the audience of not only helping people on Mac OS or other such systems, but also potentially attracting new people, submitting stuff, and like packaging packages, finding quirks, patches, and so on and so forth. Yeah, that's it for the summary here. Just wanted to provide a briefly update. Not sure, maybe I can't live stream the most this weekend. But as usual, I hope you learned something and find this interesting. All the bits, so many bits and pieces. There's always, as you see, stuff is working, you update sys5 init and you get shutdown errors, and also the win-win opportunities of optimizing shutdown speed just for the pure sake of it, and otherwise P3 and so on. Yeah, also another, last but not least, one last tiny area to work and optimize is emerging stuff for you playing along at home. We did already some stuff, but we will do more stuff, which is so that when you install T2, which now comes cross-compiled with Firefox and so on, all the previous videos and amazing stuff, that you can, without much, without many errors, like emerging stuff. And right now it's still a little bit raw, like Sushi or so, just raw Linux, and optimizing that experience similar to building on macOS, so that it is more user-friendly and more usable for you playing along at home, and more users to use and so forth. Yeah, that's it for that video, and I'm surprised, I would say myself, that this release is even more outstanding than the previous one. Last but not least, not only P3, but adding more architectures and cleaning up all the small bits and pieces. But it's also surprising to me, after 20 years, how many small things like shutdown, like Spark64 crashing. We, by the way, have still one thing. There's one small is relative. This is also why I'm asking so often for Patreon and sponsorship and stuff. There's still Spark64 shutdown. This specifically that kill all 5 thing hanging. Previous videos I mentioned that. I suspect there's something miscompiled or system code or glibc, Linux kernel, something of that sort. But easily takes either a night or a full day to further analyze. I spent already some hour or two on that. It's like something just right now. This is the biggest regression I'm aware of, and it's Spark64. It's shut down, so if it hangs on shutdown, just switch it off. Yeah. And last but not least, the irony is this Open Solaris stuff of, what was the name? Open Solaris dropping Spark support, right? So at this pace, probably this Illumos. So staggering cost of vintage Sun workstations sees Open Solaris fork Illumos, so dropping Spark support. At this rate, T2 soon becoming the last distribution to support Spark, if not PS3 and all the other fun vintage gear, but obviously latest and greatest x86 and RISC-V as well, which I hope in June we get the unmatched RISC-V board. I'm certainly very well aware it's not the most high performance, but at least, well, at least not epic thread ripping, but at least nice RISC-V stuff. So that is just in time to not only test T2 on real RISC-V hardware, except the FPGA, but also a full distribution and potentially Firefox and so on. But I said the RISC-V board, I hope the hardware is documented in terms of documentation, specification and registers and stuff enough to write a full microkernel hardware abstraction layer, like non-C, at least C++, if not Rust, full stack as promised here with microkernel and HAL, trying completely new firmware boot procedure and inter-wired nano and microkernel stuff, which RISC-V is of course an ideal, nice and clean platform and much less convoluted than this maze that is x86 complex and hardware surrounding glue and stuff. So yeah, so far I think, yeah, the segmentation, all right. So of course, as usual, a couple of, yes, that is not pretty. That is our own bug. I tried to debug this also an hour or two, didn't find it yet. Somewhere in our command wrapper. I'm surprised it actually works. Not, yeah, that's a little bit strange. Super pain in the ass to track that down because, yeah, see, we got this also ourselves not. Though to be fair, I guess the code is mostly written by Claire, but doesn't matter. It's super hard to pinpoint that. This is our compiler wrapper anyway. But I've not gotten a new MCE, I think, machine check exception with all this curve optimizing that is going on here. So previously that was, yeah, the last one. Not all the last days, that usually was an early sign of too much undervolting here. The last one was apparently, or here, wait a second, here were some, so the last was April the 29th. So since then, not a new one there. That is obviously, yeah, the time wasted on overclocking stuff. It was mostly previously, where was it? Is it before or after? Where was the last one of? This is just decoding enabled. Hash table enabled. Where was the last? Here's something. This was actually surprisingly CPU 17. A rare site, usually it was more like 0 or 1. Just checking here, am I currently running, oh, and Jamerican is on the super chats again, highly appreciated. And where was even, somewhere of that sort. Yeah, so this is, by the way, how it looks. This is also the benefit of running a real man's operating system, a real human's operating system like Linux and not Windows, where this probably is not as visible. If you are overclocking, undervolting, curve optimizing, and you get some machine check exceptions, it is usually the first major warning sign that you want to dial that back. And so this is old stuff. Just wanted to check, so there would be the... Oh, this also matches here something else. It's not really what I was looking for. Anyway, there wasn't a new one since some days, so far so good, the last 29th. But yeah, then we need to work here. So this is machine deferred error no action. Now, this is actually not very informative, that one. Also, yeah, corrected errors. Sometimes you get that one, but I would say if you get corrected errors, no action required, I would still dial your overclocking and undervolting back. That's probably not good in the long run if the temperatures rise and stuff. So where are our builds? Our builds are here. That is RISC-V of all builds. A lot of the ISOs already are, most builds are mostly done. All right, and among the things we of course implemented 32-bit EFI for that, our own Sony Vaio P, but other vintage EFI stuff. 32-bit EFI. So yeah, Jamerican 499, they are super chat, highly appreciated, and last but not least, so last but not least, the microkernel, which of course it takes a year or two to get into somewhat. Maybe end of the year that we have x86 also, like AMD 64 in virtualization, so VirtIO, and that VirtIO maybe end of the year, certainly first some Hello Virt example here and there on RISC-V and x86 and stuff, and some VirtIO testing. Certainly I can't work, due to the financial nature of the stuff, can't work on that full time right now anyway. So this will take a year or two, and of course it will most likely be slower than the Linux kernel because microkernel, but hopefully easier to, or at least nicer to program with, and more stable and more secure, at least in the long term, and maybe even more portable, but we will see. And then first the RISC-V board needs to arrive anyway. Maybe I actually should do some proof of concept stuff on the ULX 3S FPGA with 32-bit RISC-V, and otherwise with QEMU. But yeah, that's it for this video. That is a summary, that is the update. So the ISOs will be out this weekend. This is already the ISO tested here. Could scroll back. Oh no, we can't scroll back. I can't. Also, yeah, the issue of the small things. We broke our adding the new issue stuff like a year ago, and that broke that. Also making that nicer. I hope that is nicer. Previously there was some generic stuff, and also making this more compact, nicer and compact as a just. Also, wait a second, here still the Pulse, unknown username Pulse. We probably want to fix that. So why is here dbus Pulse? I guess we should fix this before the release. So much to attention to detail and actually reading the freaking logs. So that probably, but you see, the to do is long and keeps long. Basically, still finding stuff faster than even I can fix our own. Our own and other stuff. There's always something. Should be an easy thing. I probably do it tonight with a red wine on the couch at home. Fun stuff like that. But yeah, also if you're wondering, in my opinion, this is also ideal for container virtualization, super minimal stuff, customizable, even for x86. So obviously, how do we run this stuff? Of course, we run our servers with this, and I would also say it's a nice hackable, just vanilla raw Linux, raw like sushi, and it's super fulfilling to see that also we have new users, PS3, Octane, and just x86 playing along at home, sending patches and fixes and new packages and enjoying that. In general, I said it before, quite some interesting feedback here, sometimes finding typos, fixes, new packages, and fun to live stream and share this behind the scenes stuff. And now I have to rush to the family. I hope you enjoyed this and you learned something, and to see you soon for the next videos and more low level and state-of-the-art development to come.